According to Paul McCartney, John Lennon was concerned about how people would remember him after he had passed away. Paul McCartney, John Lennon's fellow Beatles bandmate, claims that the late John Lennon often thought about his own mortality in the years leading up to his passing in 1980. In one edition of the iHeart Radio podcast, Paul McCartney comments on the lives of his friends and musical partners as well as the music they created together. McCartney, A Life in Lyrics, where he disclosed that Lennon, who was 40 when he was slain outside of his New York City apartment, felt worried about how he would remember after his death. McCartney, A Life in Lyrics was written by Paul McCartney. McCartney, who is 81 years old, said on the podcast that John once told him that he was concerned about how people would remember him after his death and that this startled him. McCartney also recalled that John was concerned about how people would remember him after his death. In the episode titled, Here Today, which refers to the solo song that McCartney released in 1982 in the wake of his friend John Lennon's passing the previous year, Paul McCartney also reminisced on how well he and John Lennon collaborated musically. After some reflection, I've come to the conclusion that I never actually possessed it. You should know that we frequently ponder the following question: what do you think John would have to say about this? Is this thing just too nasty to look at? Because he will repeat the phrase again and over, I will modify it. However, my music needs to be an accurate reflection of who I am, and you won't find a lot of competing components in my songs. These days, I have no choice but to complete the task by myself. He said that the song, which was released as a single in 1982, was a love song to John, and he revealed that he created the song after John Lennon passed away. He said that he wrote the song as a way to reminisce on some of the best experiences he and John had spent together. Was thinking back on topics relating to our relationship as well as the countless activities that we've participated in together throughout the years. From simply being in one another's living rooms or bedrooms, or walking together, or hitching rides, McCartney remarked that this is how they got to know each other. Writing the song was a really moving and emotional experience for me because I was just sitting in this empty room thinking about John and realizing that I had lost him. Writing the song was a very moving and emotional experience for me. However, it does help the healing process in its own unique way. The inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has spoken openly about the overwhelming sense of loss that he felt after John Lennon's passing. During an interview on SiriusXM's The Beatles channel in 2022, he recalled the same song, Here Today, and described the loss as very difficult. He also mentioned that the song had been written by John Lennon. I remember coming home from the studio the day we heard the news he died and turning on the TV and seeing people saying, well, John Lennon was this and what he was. The memory of McCartney comes to mind. He added that Paul McCartney would not be able to go on television and articulate what John means to him in the same way that he could. It goes way too far into detail. McCartney went on to say that in regards to the feelings that followed the passing of Lennon, Paul was unable to articulate them in words. With regard to Paul, it is challenging for everyone in the world because he is such a well-liked figure, such a strange individual, and he is so unique.